Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today we're going to a long-running series, the Unported Playlist, where I take a list of my favorite unported arcade games of all time. Today that couldn't be any further from the truth because we are playing the original Hydro Thunder. Still, in my opinion, the best arcade racing game ever to take place on water. While this thing has been ported basically everywhere, the arcade original is still the best. But that's technically not what we're playing today because in-game Hydro Thunder just throws up a black screen and does not work whatsoever. I am playing the PC version of the game, and because the arcade board that Hydro Thunder ran on was PC based, it's basically the arcade original for lack of any better term, and honestly, you just want to play this game if you never have. Before we get far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, got a Patreon link down below as well. But the best part about the PC version of Hydro Thunder is that on Windows 10 and Windows 11, all you need to do is double click on the executable and it is going to work almost like it's a native Windows 10 or 11 application. And if you know anything about trying to play retro PC releases, it's an absolute minefield of trying to get anything to work. So this one is just an absolute miracle. And considering it's attached to one of the best arcade racing games ever made, you just have a recipe for absolute spectacular fun. I remember the first time I saw Hydro Thunder in arcades and I figured to myself, well, I usually play stuff like San Francisco Rush or Daytona USA. If it's got the Midway logo on it, it can't be half bad, so I sat down and threw some credits in, and honestly, after that first gameplay session, I walked away convinced that Hydro Thunder was one of the best arcade racing games I had seen in a long time. It's just one of those things. Sure, we had Scud Race, sure we had Daytona, stuff like Ridge Racer and everything else, but as far as games on water were concerned, I think even Sega can't match Midway when it comes to something like Hydro Thunder. But honestly, even sometimes in this game, it's going to get wild. You're not going to be on water whatsoever, going down a dry canal, trying to jump over a couple of boats and dolphins just to get to the finish line before any of your opponents. But when it works, and it hits absolutely perfectly fine. And I love the PC version of the game as well because it comes with bonus tracks as well as unlockable and hidden vehicles. Like right now, I am racing around as the Titanic against other boats. It makes no sense in context of the game, but I absolutely think it's hilarious and I absolutely love it. And that is why this game is just so much fun. But honestly, a racing game lives or dies on its handling and physics. Let's talk about that right off the top. As far as racing down water is concerned, I've never raced a boat in real life, but I've definitely driven a bunch of them, just not against other vehicles, and I would say the way that the vehicles actually undulate in the water, the way you kind of have to turn, and the way you kind of just maneuver around are relatively accurate, or at least about as accurate as you could probably get back in the day with water physics. Sometimes the water will be undulating, and you'll definitely want to hit it higher or lower to make sure you don't lose your speed, and sometimes you're going to take a massive jump, go onto land, and then skid back off as the Titanic into water. That is why this game is so much fun. It is just pure spectacle. There's going to be easy, medium, hard, and unlockable boats that you can actually take out on the course. The easy ones are going to basically feel like almost like you're driving a car, but they're not going to have very good top speeds. The hard vehicles are going to have absolutely massive top speeds, but you're going to be drifting in the water the entire way, and that's something that you definitely need to learn. The easier courses are going to have more wide open straightaways and even wide open curves here, where you have a lot of distance between you and the wall, but once you get to the harder areas, it's going to absolutely close in on you, and you're going to have to run a perfect line if you want to see a first place finish. Even though this game probably only takes about 35 minutes to see every track once, it will take you multiple hours to learn all of those tracks, their intricacies, their turns, and how to navigate around them. And compared to something like an arcade racing game where I talk about learning the apex of the curves and where you want to enter and exit every single turn, here it's completely different because it is water, and that's why this game is just so much fun on the handling situation. It makes you think on your feet, it makes you learn a completely new skill in arcade racing, and if you win or if you lose, it's going to be because you made a mistake, not because the game screwed up or fought you at any juncture. And you'll see here, we basically keep continually picking up boosts. You're going to have to absolutely use those in the right context and place, and you're going to have to hit almost every single one of them if you're going to want to see a first place finish. Now, the only quote-unquote downside of something like Hydro Thunder is the fact that the engine noises and the overall soundtrack are just totally fine. It's your first soundtrack sample, 45 seconds. I'll be right back with a lot more Hydro Thunder. I mean, it kind of sounds like some Millennium Hybrid Falcon water boat there with a jet coming out of the back of it. I think that is something that probably is more difficult in water racing games versus actual vehicles. You know what an engine noise sounds like, you know what tires screeching on tarmac sound like, but in a boat, it's kind of hard to imagine exactly what that would sound like. So I would say, I guess it sounds like a boat race, but honestly, maybe one of the weaker parts of Hydro Thunder. But that is the only real thing I have to say about this game that is in the negative. As far as the course layout is concerned, they're absolutely epic. They're so much fun, and I would say probably 75% of the courses are point A to point B races versus laps, and that is something I absolutely love in an arcade racing game. Just that grip it and rip it, point it straight and give her racing from the start line to the finish line with not repeating anything in a lap system. It just always is fun for me, whether it's the Cruisin' series, whether it's Hydro Thunder. It just makes every race feel like a flat out sprint to try to get into first place and see the end. And you'll see here every single course is going to have some sort of police as well that are going to try to knock you off the course, so in some ways kind of has a Need for Speed Hot Pursuit vibe going on as well. And the turbo is definitely going to be your friend. If there's vehicles in front of you that are your competitors, if there's police boats or other things in the environment, if you turbo through them, you will crash them and be able to basically just knock them directly out of the way. So you want to make sure you save those turbos, not just to try to improve your plays, but also just to knock an opponent out of your direction, because sometimes you're going to be completely blocked up, you won't be able to actually get around somebody, but if you have those turbos available, you're going to be able to actually just destroy them as you go by. And there's definitely a lot of fun shortcuts and secrets in this game as far as the courses are concerned, so learning each and every one of them and trying to get better is going to be a fundamentally important thing. But let's take you through just one course here. This is the Egyptian course, and it's actually unlockable, and this thing is just straight up madness from start to finish. So many amazing turns and twists, it's absolutely wild. And as far as the visuals are concerned, we're at that part of the video where I say this absolutely looks gorgeous, and that's because in arcades it used a 3DFX graphics card, and it definitely had that voodoo sort of look on it, that glide wrapper. But the nice thing is, in the modern PC version of the game that I'm running here, it has a glide wrapper as well, so if you're on NVIDIA or AMD, you're going to get that exact same style look except out of a modern graphics card. The real-time lighting through this cavern here looks spectacular, and all of the textures and colors just have that voodoo vibe going on. If you weren't around back in the day, you weren't playing games when this released, or when 3DFX Voodoo was some of the most popular arcade hardware out there, as well as PC hardware, it has a very specific look and feel to it. It's just that voodoo look. It's something that is absolutely nostalgic and iconic for its time and place, and it looks great here even if you're running it on something that isn't a 3DFX card with that wrapper. But I'm going to do one more quote-unquote soundtrack sample. Again, it's just going to be a lot of engine noises, but it gives you an idea of how the engine noises change when you're inside a cavern versus outside in that open area. Just 30 seconds, and I'll be right back and show you how this course ends, because trust me, it's going to get even wilder. But enjoy! I mean, it sounds like a boat, and what more could you ask for? And I really love the real-time lighting here, as all of these different sarcophagi, or at least statues of them, start falling down into the waterways. These purples, these reds, the lights on the wall, the torches, everything just looks such of a time and place of being in Egypt, or about as good as you could get back then. And of course it gets very weird, because it is a Midway game, and aliens are always going to have something to do with something, I feel like. But that's why I've always loved Midway racing games, why I've always loved Hydro Thunder. They just have so much personality, and it's completely different than Sega and Namco and even Atari back in the day. Midway games were just something that felt completely unique and of a time and place just that they had for themselves. And obviously today we have Rothril's, basically the continuation of Midway after Midway went bankrupt, so we still get some games like this. But this is just so trippy here. The entire world is just basically circling around you, and you have to race down a canal. This is where it gets extremely difficult. This is the type of game where you need technical expertise in how you handle the boat, and you need to learn every every single course, in and out, every single turn, if you're ever going to beat your opponent, especially on these harder courses. But that is a good thing in an arcade racing game. It keeps quarters going into the machines, and at home it keeps you playing and having fun. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me what's the first time you played Hydro Thunder, because obviously this one isn't a deep cut. It is a very popular and very famous game, but one that weirdly I hadn't talked about. And hopefully one day it does work in MAME emulation, but because we have the PC version of the game and the arcade board was just a PC in a box, we basically have the arcade original anyway, so just a little bit of a pivot on unported playlist today. But here comes the finish line. It's absolute chaos and I'd love to see it. But short of that, we're going to be in 7th place, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.